Hi, I'm Mark Winfield from Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada. Patty and I went on the Appalachian Mountain Club Lodge to Hut adventure in January 2018. This video is about our adventure. We were first exposed to AMC in the summer of 2017 when we stayed at the Highland Center at Crawford Notch in New Hampshire. We hiked there for 2 days after hiking in the Adirondacks. We have joined the club and found it to be an excellent not-for-profit organization. I encourage you to check them out. We located the hike on the AMC website and registered for it about 3 months before the start date. We're not in the US, so we had to register by telephone. Registration went fine, and as promised, a detailed information package arrived via email a week before the hike. The hike primarily consists of an evening of instruction, a hike on the 19-mile Brook Trail to the Carter Notch Hut on the Appalachian Trail for a night's stay, and we stayed in an unheated bunkhouse and had activities. We returned the next day. The hike up to the hut is 3.8 miles with an elevation change of about 1,800 feet. The adventure started at Joe Dodge Lodge in Pinkham Notch, New Hampshire, which is in the Mount Washington area. As New Hampshire is a 13-hour drive from Nova Scotia, we traveled to nearby North Conway on Thursday. North Conway is a ski and outlet shopping destination. Friday morning, we took in some shopping and then drove to Pinkham Notch in the middle of the day. As check-in was not until 3 p.m., we looked around the facilities in the information center and then went for a short hike on one of the trails behind the lodge. The facilities in Pinkham Notch include the information center, which has a store selling clothing and hiking-related items. We purchased our microspikes there. It also includes the dining hall where we ate our meals, which were included as part of the tour price. Joe Dodge Lodge is the hotel building where we slept Friday night. It has private rooms and bunks available. The tour price included bunks, but we paid extra for a private room. Our room was neat and comfortable, decorated with an outdoorsy flavor. As this is a hiking facility, the many hooks in the room served hikers well. Washrooms and showers are shared. The men's and women's each had 2 showers. There are at least 2 living rooms with a fireplace, which were a great place to hang out and meet people. The entire complex is very well maintained, clean, and staffed with knowledgeable, helpful people. After checking in, we went to the information center for a hearty cafeteria-style supper. We met most of our group there and our guides. After supper on Friday, we had a gear meeting where we were more formally introduced to our guides, Katie and Emily. Both are highly qualified professionals. They were also the nicest people, always helping with a smile. The schedule of events was reviewed, as were weather conditions. We talked at length about what to wear, what to pack, and how to pack it. Our group of 8 were experienced 3-season hikers. We had all hiked at least a few 4,000 footers, but there was a general lack of winter experience, so we had many questions. We also ordered our trail lunch from the kitchen. Before telling about the hike, I think a few things are worth mentioning. A detailed list of recommended clothing and equipment is provided, and you should pay close attention to it, keeping in mind that the weather is unpredictable from very cold to mild. Bring a variety of clothing. The materials suggest bringing a 40-liter pack. However, this was not large enough, mostly because winter sleeping bags are bulky. Patty had to borrow a larger pack from the extensive inventory of loaner equipment. An essential item is microspikes. As it turns out, we use these to go up and down the mountain. Without these, the hike would have been much more difficult. One of our group only had chains, and she visibly struggled with traction. Another is fitness level. Patty and I are 61 and very fit, and we're the oldest in the group. We are dedicated runners who participate in 6-mile running events all year long. We were comfortable with the hike, as were all of our fellow hikers. We all had to carry full packs, plus food and water. Poles were helpful in staying balanced carrying this load. When I got home, I weighed my pack and it was 30 to 35 pounds. Patty's load was 10 pounds heavier because of her photo gear. She carried her camera body and 2 lenses in a sling pack. She also brought a tripod, but wished she had not. The hike is rated as moderate, which I think is correct. I don't think the hike would be enjoyable if you were struggling physically. Saturday morning, we met to go over and fix up our packing troubles. We also received our trail lunch and the loads of food we had to carry. Weather conditions were again discussed, and it was unseasonably mild, being around freezing during the day. The week before, it had been -20. Because of the trail conditions, we were advised to wear microspikes. We piled into a van for the short drive to the trailhead. The trail follows a creek for a large portion of the hike, and there is lots of running water, making for interesting ice formations. We were traveling on the 19-mile Brook Trail. The trail was broken and packed with virtually no post-holing. There were some icy stretches. The climb of 1,800 feet over 3.8 miles was fairly steady with few steep or flat stretches. We stopped about halfway up the mountain for a Mother Nature break. There are no latrines along the trail, so trips to the woods are necessary. Our guide surprised us with candy bars, which were received with smiles. Almost the entire hike up the mountain was in the shelter of the woods, and there were many beautiful sights along the way, as well as the excellent company of our fellow hikers. We also met a few other hikers on the trail, but not many. The temperature was around freezing, and we were properly dressed for this. As we climbed the mountain, the wind came up big time. It did not bother us on the trail, but it howled loudly overhead. Very near to the hut, we passed by 2 ponds. Here we were somewhat exposed to the very strong winds, which gusted at 60 miles per hour. The ponds don't seem to have names, but they provided beautiful views. We arrived at Carter Notch Hut midday and welcomed the hot chocolate that is always available. The hut consists primarily of a single large room, 1/3 of which is the propane-fired kitchen, and the remainder is the dining area with benches and tables. We purchased our hut patches from the small store of essential items such as microspikes, poles, batteries, and snacks. Taylor, the hut caretaker, told me that the propane for the kitchen is flown in by helicopter 2 or 3 times a year. There's a small wood stove in the dining area that takes the chill away. Even with the mild weather and the fire, we always had to keep our jackets on, including when the hut was full of people in the evening. After getting our hot chocolate and eating our trail lunch, we were assigned our bunks and unpacked. While completely off-grid with no power or cell phone signals, the entire complex was quite civilized. The only heated building was the main hut, but the bunkhouses and latrines were clean and well maintained. In the afternoon, there was an optional activity. We went for a 3-hour hike on snowshoes into the Wild River Wilderness area. We traveled on an unbroken trail that was very steep, sometimes as much as 60 degrees. We descended on the way out and ascended on the return. It was nice not to have to carry our packs. Neither Patty or I are very skilled at snowshoeing, but we got along quite well, which I partly attribute to the fact that we have good quality snowshoes. Back at the complex, we gathered for supper and an evening of hut life. We all shared in supper preparation, chopping vegetables and grating cheese for burritos. I must say that every meal during the adventure was hearty and well prepared. While waiting for our turn in the kitchen, we played a Scrabble-like game and socialized with our fellow hikers. The hut was at its capacity of 35 that night, so there was lots of friendly people to talk with. If you're wondering about the lights, they're solar powered. We left the hut for bed around 9 and had a comfortable sleep in our winter bags, stripped down to our base layer of clothing. In the morning, we had a hearty breakfast with lots of great coffee. The trip down the mountain is always easier than the ascent. There was no wind at all and the sky was blue. The temperature remained near freezing and we again wore our microspikes. Back at the lodge, we had a final meal together and traded contact information. Patty and I both agreed that the tour exceeded our expectations in every way. Our guides were two of the nicest people you could hope to meet while being consummate professionals. Our fellow hikers were the best, and we hope to meet them all again on a trail somewhere. Thank you for watching.